You know what you don't see anymore at Yankee Stadium? The Cracker Jacks guy. You know, he's always been in the upper decks, like Cracker Jacks, you throw him. I don't know, since like coming back from COVID, I haven't seen the guy. But I was at the supermarket, crazy enough, boom, I see Cracker Jacks on the shelf. So I was like, I got to get this. Not really for the Cracker Jacks, it's like because they got stuck to your teeth and it's kind of nasty, but you want the prize. So I say, let's go for the prize right away. So we got one of our boxes here, comes in a box of 3. Yeah. You got a big here. This thing's like a Fort Knox. All right. Let's go for that prize. I mean, that's all you get is this. It's like, it's a rip. Oh, there's the prize though. All right, this is the Inside Prize Arcade. Let's see what it is. Let's rip the prize open here. It's a dog stamp. You kidding me? You pay all this and you eat this just for a dog stamp. Welcome to Section 420, Talkin Yankees, where Roki Sasaki shocks the world by signing with the Los Angeles Dodgers, which I told you was going to happen. Never official. Roki Sasaki will now join a super starting rotation there, which is just scary to announce him, but we'll get into that whole deal. Again, we all knew that he wasn't going to come to the Mets or the Yankees, nevertheless, but signs with the Dodgers. So get into that, and of course, some big baseball news in a sad way, the passing of Bob Uecker, the longtime broadcaster of the Milwaukee Brewers. Also a TV star as well as a movie star as well. Kind of one of those bigger-than-life type of personalities. So I kind of get into Bob Uecker a little bit just because it's kind of worth mentioning. And a little bit movement within the AL East. You know, the Toronto Blue Jays, who kind of struck out on Sasaki there, do land a big free agent, someone who the Yankees were possibly considering as well. But the Yankees make a little news of their own, signing a former Met, Dominic Smith, if you may even remember him, joining the Yankees there. We'll kind of get the details of, just kind of what he's been doing the past few years and this minor league deal to bring him in here. So a lot of good stuff for this episode. And again, we have a whole, spring training ahead of us. We get some games before we know it, but still, I'm sure there's still some moves to be made, little minor moves there, and little things. Of course, there's going to be competition. What are the Yankees going to do for second base? What are the Yankees going to do for first base? Is there any else they could bring in to maybe, tweak up the bullpen? Marcus Stroman, is he going to stay? Is he going to go? So a lot of stuff you want to catch up there, so make sure you're an audio podcast subscriber. I know you like watching the show, but if you want to get news and updates and my takes on things much more frequently, you have to subscribe to the audio podcast version of the show. So wherever you get your favorite podcast, look for Section 420 Talk Yankees, the podcast. And of course, here on YouTube, you should be subscribed already. But if you're not, do it now, subscribe. And if you're watching on TV, somehow you flip to the channel, you want to get this stuff sooner, you want to get this content sooner, you don't have to wait a whole week. Go to YouTube, look for Section 420 Talkin Yankees, subscribe there as well. And of course, the audio podcast version of the show, Section 420 Talkin Yankees. Get everything this season. So last episode concerning Sasaki, we kind of went through how he was doing this process and letting teams know one by one that they would not be needing his services. And of course, the Yankees and the Mets were 2 of those teams, and it kind of came down to 3: the Los Angeles Dodgers, the San Diego Padres, and the Toronto Blue Jays, which I didn't even think the Blue Jays would have had a chance. And they always seem to be, the names always seem to be floating around, so they must be just throwing boatloads of money at some of these free agents, and just nobody wants to bite on it. But nevertheless, we all knew what the situation was going to be. It was either going to be the Dodgers or the Padres, and of course, the Dodgers were going to have pretty much, the favorability there. I mean, they just won the World Series. You got Ohtani there, Yamamoto there. These are fellow countrymen. The logistics make sense. I mean, it's a shorter flight from Japan. Yeah, I can say that a little bit also with San Diego. But of course, the Dodgers, San Diego, they got some good, prospects about them. They got some, good possibilities with them. But they haven't won anything anytime there. So all right now, they're all this bunch of hype. So if you're a player, okay, maybe you want to break away from the whole Dodger thing and cement yourself as a Padre and say, hey, this is going to be my team and my identity. You could do that, or you could just jump aboard the bandwagon and just win some more championships, which, of course, why not? Jump aboard the bandwagon and win some more championships. So Roki Sasaki decides on the pitch for the Dodgers there. And again, we broke down the whole deal that, they can't give him the mega contract. You can only use your international pool money. So all these teams more or less could offer him the same amount of money, give it or take $1 million. So again, this wasn't about the money situation for him. It was like, what's the best position, place for me to play there? And of course, the Dodgers there was just a no-brainer there. So he ultimately signs with the Dodgers there. I believe the actual pool money they used on him was $6.5 million. Again, because he's under the age of 25 and he's an international free agent. At some point, when he becomes, a free agent at 25 there, that's when he'll get his mega $300 or $400 million deal. Who knows, like that. But of course, now he's going to join a rotation, which right now includes, and let me just roll out these names here. Of course, Yamamoto, who we mentioned last time. Blake Snell, who the Dodgers signed there. Tyler Glasnow. Now, obviously missed a chunk of last season, but of course we know Glasnow could do when healthy, especially if you're a Yankee fan. Remember those years he pitched for the Tampa Bay Rays and pretty much would shut the Yankees down a lot of times. And Clayton Kershaw, you kind of heard of that guy. Probably a future Hall of Famer. Yeah, I know he's been bit by the injury bug a little bit. Wasn't part of their championship run last season there, but he's dangerous. He's Kershaw. He said he's going to return to the team there. And, of course, that guy, I don't know if you heard of him, Shohei Ohtani. Yes, he's a great offensive player. Yes, he's a National League MVP and hit like 50 home runs. Well, you might not also know he's a pitcher, and yes, he's going to be pitching in 2025 there, and we know when he's a pitcher, the stuff he could bring there. So you look at this mega rotation right now. Now Sasaki's going to join there. So, it's almost like just why even bother to the 2025 season at this point is just give the Dodgers the championship and let's try again in 2026. But nevertheless, you got to play the games. Look, we all know what could happen here. And if you look at the Dodgers, they had so many injuries on the starting pitch last season. I mean, Yamamoto, yeah, they brought him a lot of hype, but he also missed a chunk of time. I mean, look, he really didn't pitch that much. Now, yes, he was there when they needed him in the postseason in the World Series there, but and as I was saying with Tyler Glasnow as well, he missed a chunk of last season. Same with Kershaw. So yeah, you could have this mega rotation, but you could also have a ton of injuries, and it also could work out this Ohtani himself. All right, I mean, he hasn't pitched almost about 2 years himself, so we know what you can do as an offensive player, but you can't just assume, well, he's in there, he's gonna be a great pitcher. Maybe not. Maybe he gets injured there. So, yes, even though you have this mega rotation there, still a lot of things could go wrong. But, wow, on paper, if you look at that rotation there, at first thought maybe they figured the Yankees, with some of the moves they made, especially with Max Fried, might have the best starting rotation in baseball. But if all these cogs and horses are going on the right foot there, Dodgers clearly with the scariest rotation in baseball. And again, what they could do with everything else, the offense, the team, and everything, the bullpen. Again, you almost want to pencil them in as your 2025 World Champions. But, of course, you got to play the game itself. And for Sasaki, look, he kind of gave a weak statement. He said something to the effect of, it was a very difficult decision. Are you kidding me? I mean, to go to the Dodgers is not a very difficult decision there. And there's a little abruption in baseball where I guess maybe some other teams now getting a little bit angry at the Dodgers and maybe a little jealous at them, basically saying that there was some sort of handshake agreement between Sasaki and the Dodgers even before this entire process started. It's like, yeah, let's go through the motions on this one, but wink, 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 we're going to sign with you guys anyway there. So now Major League Baseball, quote, when it is, they did a full investigation as of right now. Baseball, MLB said there's been no wrongdoing by the Dodgers or the Sasaki camp. And Sasaki's agent said, no, it's preposterous to even think about that. Well, it's something you'll never know. Could have been a possibility, yeah. But again, if you're a free agent there and all these teams could offer you the same amount of money, well, what's going to be, if someone can blow you away with a contract, why not just go to the best team in baseball? So, so for Sasaki, it really was a no-brainer there. So I don't think it was a very difficult decision there. So, but whatever, I guess he has to give a statement. That's the statement he has to give. And, of course, now you're looking at the Dodgers kind of doing with the way the Yankees were in the 90s, the sort of evil empire, stuff like that. They're this way they're collecting all these big-name players. Everyone wants to go to the Dodgers there. And as I kind of mentioned in the previous episode here with the Yankees, that's what they have to get back to. I mean, they kind of gotten away from that now where they're not, back in the old days, you could be Brian Cashman, you could be the Steinbrenners, you kind of sit there, it's like you slam down the 27 rings, you slam down Babe Ruth and Mickey Mantle. It's like, all right, you want to play, you want to pay it, we give you the big contract, you got all the Yankee history. A lot of players aren't this, the younger players now and stuff like that. That doesn't mean much anymore. Yankees haven't won since 2009, and great they got to the World Series last year, but they don't have a culture of winning here that's going to attract a lot of players. So that's just something the Yankees are going to have to do, and they're going to have to do it not relying on free agents, but they got to build internally. We have a couple. You produce a few judges there. We have a good team. You add a free agency to it, and you win a couple of championships, and everyone wants to come to you. But right now, everyone wants to go to the Dodgers. You got to feel a little bit sorry, I guess, for the AL East foe, Toronto Blue Jays. Apparently, no one really wants to play there. Of course, last offseason, they tried to woo Ohtani. Didn't happen. Then earlier during this winter season, it looked like they were trying to get in on the Soto sweepstakes. He did decide he didn't want to go there. And, of course, now most recently, as we mentioned before, Sasaki put Toronto Blue Jays as one of the 3 finalists there. And he also didn't want to go to Toronto. So apparently no one wants to go to Toronto. But finally it looks like they've convinced somebody, at least they bribed somebody enough to go there, signing Anthony Santander to a 5-year deal worth $92.5 million. Now he's obviously from the Baltimore Orioles, and you might remember, plenty of home runs at Yankee Stadium, playing there in right field. Now the Yankees supposedly were kicking the tires on him, and I thought he would be a good option for the Yankees. Obviously he's a switch hitter, you like that, and he's a right fielder. So again, that would be a positive move if the Yankees want to go in this direction. Now Obviously, the Yankees didn't, and I think that's probably once they got the Cody Bellinger trade went underway, that probably just removed Santander from consideration. But again, but if he would have joined the Yankees, I think that would have been a good option. And again, it looks like the Yankees were kicking the tires on him now. As been for the deal, it's a 5-year deal worth $92.5 million. Now there are some options that kick into it that could possibly make it a 6-year deal worth $110 million there. And he's only 30 years old, so a young guy. Now, if you want to look at his stats from last season, now the power and RBIs and number were good there, but obviously the batting average not. So only hit 235, which you're not really impressed in that. But if you look at some of the other numbers, 44 home runs, you'll take that. 102 RBIs and a 5.06 slugging percentage there. But so he'll be now joining the Toronto Blue Jays, and again, it kind of helps the Yankees and doesn't help the Yankees because I remember plenty of games where Santander would just kill the Yankees when he was with the Baltimore Orioles. Again, whether it's his bat or making some good plays against the wall in right field, jumping up and robbing some doubles and home runs and stuff like that there. So all right, so you take that threat away from the Baltimore Orioles, but now you kind of give that to the Toronto Blue Jays. But either way, it's kind of a wash. And for the Yankees, I just think they got the better deal with sticking with Bellinger. Obviously, yeah, you're paying him a boatload of money this season. You do have the option for next season there, but you're not stuck with him a long-term commitment. Obviously, with someone like Santander, who's a free agent, you're going to have to give him like 4 or 5 years like he got here with Toronto. So, I think things all worked out, or, all things considered, things worked out for the Yankees with getting Bellinger. And now with the Baltimore Orioles, they have a big gap there because, again, he was kind of one of their big main players. He was remember just watching him. He's just always a pesky player. Just always somehow would disrupt the game for the Yankees. So now you got a little relief there, but of course now he brings that to Toronto. Does it make Toronto a much better team? Yeah, it helps them a little bit. I don't see the Toronto Blue Jays as a sort of big threat for the Yankees to take the AL East crown there. So it's still the Yankees should still be the team to beat in the AL East. So no Sasaki for the Yankees, but they do make a move, a minor league deal move with the former manager. You may remember he had a little buzz a couple of seasons ago, and that's Dom Smith. So they signed him. He's the former #1 pick for the New York Mets to a minor league deal. The numbers aren't really out yet there, but if you may recall, he came up like 2020 with the Mets, kind of a little bit of a kind of, I guess, a little flash in the pan there. Again, in a small amount of games, he had 10 home runs, and it was about a lot of hoopla around him. He was going to be the savior for the Mets and all that stuff there. Well, never really panned out for the Mets and has been bouncing around baseball a little bit. We're still kind of young. He's 29. Last season, only played 93 games, and that was split between the Reds and the Red Sox, so maybe he liked the color red for some reason. They ultimately would cut him September 2nd, so it didn't really make a great impression on them. But if you look at his numbers last season, only hit 233, 6 home runs, 34 RBIs. But what probably caught Cashman's eye was his .691 OPS, and that's on base plus slugging. So, even though his numbers weren't that impressive, I guess he was finding ways to get on base, and maybe someone Cashman saw like that. Let's say get a guy who get on base, and obviously you have some guys behind you. Get some 2-run homers, get some rallies going. So I guess that's why Cashman felt worth bringing him in. And that's a minor league deal. Obviously, be invited to camp. See if he has anything left to make an impression there. Couldn't even crack the big team. Now the Yankees, at first base, as you know, they signed Goldschmidt there, so of course he's going to get the bulk of the playing time. Now Dom Smith, when he originally came up with the Mets, he was a outfielder slash first baseman. A little bit better of a first baseman. Over the past couple of seasons, though, he's only been playing first base, so I guess the outfield thing didn't really work out with him. It's kind of a bit of a butcher out there anyway there, so this would be a situation for, the Yankees have an option at first base. He's a left-handed bat, so, let's say Goldschmidt, as we know, he's a right-handed hitter. Maybe you want to give Goldschmidt a day off, so you have Dom Smith there, you got to start at first base, or you have Dom Smith, on the bench there, maybe come up and pinch hit in the situation there. And the Yankees a little bit clogged at first base because, you still have Goldschmidt, who the Yankees signed. You still have DJ LeMahieu under contract. You assume he's going to get some time at first base. And as aforementioned, Cody Bellinger, who could play center field, but also play some first base, and he's a left-handed bat there, so it's kind of like, you don't really need a left-handed bat if you have Bellinger in the mix there. But, you have different scenarios that could pop up. So, for example, let's just say for, God forbid, Aaron Judge, is on the IL a little bit. So now you need Bellinger to play right field. Well, now you don't have Bellinger as an option as a left-handed first baseman. And that's where you can insert someone like Dom Smith as an option for first base. So, gives us Cashman some moves there. They want to take a look at him. Maybe you got... You're not expect much of him offensively, and who knows if he makes a team. Probably even doesn't, but nevertheless, and maybe had to do with some of the stuff going on there. I don't know. Who knows? You see the Mets now signing a lot of former Yankees like that, so maybe this is Cashman's answer now to sign a former Met and have him do well here and kind of stick it to them a little bit. Who knows? Now the Yankees are still trying to lock down a reliable lefty for the bullpen. Again, we mentioned that Tim Hill, who came on the Yankees, kind of grabbed him off the scrap heap last season and was good for the Yankees down the stretch as well in the postseason. Again, a little long in the tooth at 34, 35 years old, but still remaining unsigned. Now, it seems both the Yankees and the Mets have interest in Hill, but right now, looks like no deal is done. I don't know which side really being, maybe the Yankees probably only going to offer a one-year deal at something. Maybe Tim Hill as a lefty who just, again, had a good run during the postseason, upped his value a little bit. Maybe he's looking for a bigger type of contract, whether it's in terms of millions per year or number of seasons there, but nevertheless, seemed like that's all to be shake out. Now, there was a big-name lefty reliever out there that the Yankees could potentially have bought in, but unfortunately too late, outdone by those, surprise, 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 Los Angeles Dodgers. So, again, this is somewhat coming down somewhat recently right now, and that's Tanner Scott signing a 4-year deal worth $72 million. So it's almost like starting pitcher type money now. Scott got is a 4-year deal. And so it's about the second largest contract for a reliever, again, probably behind Edward Diaz's $102 million that he got from the Mets a couple of seasons ago there. So Scott, who pitched last season for the Padres, was a closer, but he's also kind of a jack of all trades. He could do, pitch other ways. He could be a setup man as well. More than likely, will be a closer with the Dodgers, which already has a scary bullpen and it has a scary starting rotation, which I mentioned at the very top of the show. So he just joins there. And again, the Dodgers just shelling out the money, putting out there. And if we look at his numbers last season, very impressive. 72 innings pitched, 84 strikeouts. So 84 strikeouts, 72 innings. So this is a guy who's striking out at least one or more batters per inning there. Microscopic ERA of 1.75. So he's pitching to an ERA under 2 there. And number of walks, 36 there. So 72 innings, only issuing 36 walks there. So it's, it's about less than a walk per inning there. So again, very impressive numbers. Hard thrower there. And again, something that the Yankees could have possibly used. Did they really need him? No, just for the fact that he's at high leverage. I mean, he's kind of a closer type of lefty there. The Yankees kind of need sort of a Graham Lloyd type, a Tim Hill type there. They don't need a guy of this caliber there. I mean, this is a guy who you would maybe expect to close games. Yankees already had the closer roles sort of locked down with both Devin Williams and Luke Weaver there in the back of the bullpen there. So did they desperately need Scott? No, but he was out there to be had. But apparently the Yankees didn't have him. The Dodgers got him. Then again, the Yankees still have to scramble around for a lefty. So we'll see what happens. Could they potentially reunite with Tim Hill? Yeah. But there's probably other Tim Hill guys like that floating around there. So I guess I can say what Cash is not really desperately to go all in on someone like a Tim Hill. Maybe he just had a little good flash in the pan with the Yankees there. And if you bring him back, maybe it would be a total dumpster fire. You don't know that. There's always someone you could get out there. So I don't think it's urgent for the Yankees. You still have the spring training to come there. I'm sure there'll be some spring training invites, some minor league invites. Maybe there's someone in-house, whether it's in double or triple A, that the Yankees haven't seen yet. And then once they get an opportunity, time to shine in spring training, maybe they impress Cashman and he could do it in-house. So since we're kind of in Cooperstown Hall of Fame season, they want to backtrack on one story there, and that was regarding some of the players voted invited to the Veterans Committee there. Kind of only mentioned Jim Leland, the manager, but there were a couple of players that got in. We never really covered here on the show or the audio podcast. So since we're here and you're watching, might as well cover now. There were 2 veteran players added. These are position players, and that would be, of course, Dave Parker and Dick Allen, and voted in by the Veterans Committee. And these are players who didn't go in the traditional way. So usually a player's up for the Hall of Fame. They got a 10-year opportunity for 10 years, and the baseball writers decide, if they are worthy to go in, because they need 75% of the vote. And if that doesn't happen within 10 seasons, then you're off the ballot and you lose your opportunity. And that's why you have players sort of like, the Roger Clemens and the A-Rods of the world who probably are not going to get voted in by the baseball writers. This is probably, if they ever get in the future, it's going to be probably through this route, this kind of Veterans Committee, which is kind of a mix of some former players, former umpires, former executives who kind of take players who maybe were overlooked or feel like should have been voted in the Hall of Fame, weren't voted in the Hall of Fame, and then give them the nods to get to do. And some of these are controversial picks, and again, probably the most egregious one will be Harold Baines, who was like a forever DH, who again a very good hitter there, but would you ever consider Harold Baines a Hall of Famer? Probably not, but again, this committee did put Baines in there. There's been some other picks there you want to scratch your head with. These are for players that are just on the cusp. They're very good players. Maybe as hitters, dangerous hitters, but they're not great. They don't have the big numbers. They're not the Reggie Jacksons. They're not the Willie Mays. They're not the Hank Aaron's of the world there. So they're not the Mariano Rivera's of the world. But there was this very good, right there. The NJs couldn't get it over. Again, my point, and again, my maybe beef for these type of things there is that the Hall of Fame should always be that you look at a player and you just know right away that's a Hall of Famer. It shouldn't be that's a really good player, that's a very good player. It should be that's a Hall of Fame and that's it. And you do see some players, whether it's through this veterans voting committee there or just through the traditional way, some players getting in there. And again, a little late, especially lately. It seems like some of these guys are a little bit watered down. And you want to just go to the last Hall of Fame class of last season. Take someone like Todd Helton, for example. Now look, you look at the back of his baseball, you look at his numbers, they were tremendous there. But would you say he was one of the greats of the game? I don't know. So somebody's been very flaky there, but we'll go over both Dave Parker and Dick Allen's number there. Obviously, I'm not saying it's outrageous that they're in there, but they're just one of those players that are right on the cusp. Again, did a lot of good stuff there, but but at least at the times they were in there, were never seen as Hall of Famers there. But first we'll do Dave Parker. Now, obviously, known more with the 11 seasons he put in with the Pittsburgh Pirates. He was part of that 79 we're all family sort of team there. That was kind of their mantra. But he also bounced around between Cincinnati, Milwaukee, Oakland, California, and the California Angels, and last but not least, the Toronto Blue Jays. But despite his couple of last season not being that great batting average-wise, but if you look at his career average, 290 career average, so and that's obviously the game was a little different back then, where the batting average is a little bit more valued than it is now, and that's what some of these veteran committees do. They kind of look at what's being considered good now versus what wasn't going to be considered then, vice versa. So there's different ways you can look at players as you're going through different eras. But a 290 batting average, which is pretty good. 339 home runs, so that's a lot. But is that even close to the magical 500, which is almost automatic to get you in? No, not again. He's off by like 160 home runs there, but nevertheless, 2,712 hits, so 2,700 hits, very good there. But is that close to the magical 3,000 hits that usually makes you a shoo-in? No, he's about 200 and change short there. So 160 and change short of the 500 home runs, 100, about 300 hits shy of the 3,000 there. Now, if he played another 2 or 3 seasons, maybe we would have gotten it, maybe not, I don't know, but still short of those 2 milestones there. And last but not least, a slugging percentage of .471 there. So very good, but there's a lot of players that are way over that there, so he's kind of a little below that threshold there. Now you want to look at his accolades. Former MVP, that always helps your case there. 7-time All-Star, 2-time batting title champion, three-time Gold Glove winner, and won 2 World Series. Again, one of them, because I mentioned before, with the Pittsburgh Pirates. So if you look at those accolades, very good. Now, if he won 2 or 3 MVPs, okay, maybe that would make him more of a shoe in there, but just had the 1 MVP. But there's a lot of great players out there who just had 1 MVP and, aren't going to get into the Hall of Fame there. So, do I say this one's gross? No, but again, I just feel that this is just someone pushed in who probably normally wouldn't be a Hall of Fame the traditional way. Look at Dave Parker, he's a really good player, but, would you say he's a Hall of Famer? Hard to say there. So I don't think it's disgusting, but nevertheless, I'm okay with it just the way it is now. Now, the second player, Dick Allen. Now, Dick Allen had an interesting career. He didn't play that long. He only played 15 seasons, but he did a lot with it. Also a former MVP, so he won the MVP back in 1972. He was a Rookie of the Year. Same as Dave Parker, a 7-time All-Star. And if you want to look at his numbers career-wise, just almost the same as Parker, at least when batting average-wise. Had a 292 batting average, so Parker was at 290. Dick Allen at 292, so almost the same there. Home runs, just about the same, 351 career home runs. Still, that's about $150 shy of the magical 500 home runs there. Not that should automatically make you in. Man, Sosa has, Rafael Palmeiro has more than 500 home runs, and he's not getting in. But of course, there's some substance allegations with him with that stuff there. And then look, his slugging percentage a little bit better than Dave Parker's at .534 there. So again, he's just one of those players that were very good, very dangerous. But would you say they're great? Would you say they're a Hall of Famer? Probably not in most stances, but I can understand why a committee will look back at those two and say, hey, you know what? Some people like them, and you look what happened with like Andre Dawson, for example, who one of the most dominating players during the 80s and early 90s. There, some of these players that they were just maybe not considered great, but just put up insane numbers there. We figure they deserved the shot to get in there. So again, I'm not saying these two are terrible there, but I just think it does dilute the Hall of Fame a little bit when you start kind of whether it's going back, taking a player from the past or players from the current day. And there's one player I kind of pick on a little bit. I have nothing against him personally, but when Scott Rowland was introduced into the Hall of Fame a couple of seasons ago, let's look at his numbers, for example. His career batting average is 281. So you have these two players here who couldn't make the Hall of Fame, hitting about 290. Scott Rowland gets voted in the normal way at a batting average that's low at 281 there. So this showing how the Hall of Fame is getting diluted a little bit here. And of course, you look at his career, 316 home runs. So that's less home runs than Dave Parker and Dick Allen. Now, I know they have all these other sabermetrics and stuff like that that's already vote a player in there. But just look at the raw numbers itself. Here's Scott Rowland, who got in the conventional way, but his batting average and his total home runs are less than Dave Parker and Dick Allen there. So this shows that, at the end, I think they're really loosening up here the Hall of Fame. But probably would help Rowland's case there. I mean, I remember there were a couple of like WAR and WHIP and stuff like a WAR like that to get him in there. But I remember the whole breakdown of that. But he did get 8 Gold Gloves, so it was pretty impressive. His work at third base. Was also a Rookie year. Won a Silver Slugger. And the same as Dick Allen and Dave Parker, is a 7-time All-Star. And of course, we're going to take time to mention the passing of Bob Uecker, the longtime announcer for the Milwaukee Brewers. And has been for, not only known for that, but of course also known just really across the world in America. Obviously he's working Mr. Belvedere, the TV show, just appearances on all the, comedy shows and late night shows. Did spots with, like Carson, did spots with David Letterman. And then, and of course, if you're a baseball fan, the movie Major League 1 and 2 here, where he also played an announcer for the lowly Cleveland Indians at the time there. Seemed like he would almost see this going on forever, but unfortunately passing away at the age of 90 there. And similar to what we discussed, before, like Ricky Henderson, there's just certain people that just are kind of the bigger than the game and just characters of the game that just irreplaceable. And you would say Ricky Henderson's like that, and of course Bob Uecker like that as well. Now, which you may not know or do know, he not only was an announcer, but of course a former player himself. Originally came up with the Milwaukee Braves, so he's actually from Milwaukee, so was able to play for his hometown team. And then after that, once he retired from baseball as a player, started broadcasting games for his hometown Brewers, starting in 1971, and went on for the next 50 years or so. But look back at his playing career as well, just to give you the full tale of the tape on him. So he played 6 years in the majors. That ended in 1967. And, obviously former Yankee radio announcer John Sterling, who finally hung it up after this postseason run, which fell a little short for the Yankees. Kind of had a story there in the New York Post how he actually met Uecker. This was actually through Joe Torre, who Joe Torre, you may recall, used to play for the Milwaukee Braves way back in the day there. And I guess the connection through Uecker and Torre was able to introduce Uecker to John Sterling. And he's just look at some of the, some of the voices of baseball, unfortunately, as this kind of fading away. Of course, we lost Vince Scully, who famously called games for the Dodgers. John Sterling, yes, alive, but of course in his 80s, and looks like he's finally done with broadcasting. Gave us a kind of a, little cool, came back a little bit towards the end of last season. It looks like maybe when the Yankees looked like they might have an opportunity for somewhat of a significant postseason run. He kind of came back after sort of quitting the first time in April there, but he's probably gone for good. Maybe he'll make an appearance like kind of he did mid-season, just call an inning randomly, but other than that, he's pretty much gone. And if you look at who's really left in the game, again, Bob Uecker, of course, maybe the biggest, maybe under Vince Scully, just known nationally, internationally as a broadcaster there, kind of last to go. So kind of losing some of these guys there, unfortunately. It's just the way it is, turnover there. But Bob Uecker, again, passing away at the age of 90. So that's the episode. I guess we'll pencil in the Dodgers as the 2025 World Series champions. Why even bother play this season? But nevertheless, hey, at least we got Dom Smith. So make sure you subscribe to the audio podcast version of the show, Section 420 Talkin Yankees. If you watch it on YouTube, smash that subscribe button. And of course, if you're on TV, you got to do both. Cover it all.
Yeah.